to ask, why is
the hair?
Yeah. When you zoom
Really
in, when
simple.
you zoom in your face like that with like eye level, it makes it.
My face is really odd looking anyways, but well, I was a little too intoxicated and I decided to try to get myself a haircut, like a fade or whatever. And then I messed up, so I had to go bald. So
Well, I mean, I
that's
don't think
really
you
it.
messed up to pay dividends right here.
I mean, I like cut a really harsh line that was really crooked and I just couldn't reverse it. So
oh shit, I know who you look like that. You wouldn't remember him, but you look like Pierce when you're like this.
right here.
He was one of the guys who was he was in my peer group, but he got med-cept right before we left for Okie, like our first one. But
I know the name, I just don't think I ever met him.
yeah, oh my gosh, like if I showed that picture to like Charnes or someone, like, or if you just seen a picture of his face, you would be like,
right here.
You're killing me, Danny Legg.
Yeah, my face is really odd looking on a front facing camera. Well, it
Wait,
probably is in real life too, but
so did you go on you weren't able to go to Okie, did you? The one that the last one that they just went on?
yeah, no, I didn't go.
You got like a bad injury or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was a really weird injury. I wouldn't even really call it an injury. It was just something weird that happened. So it was a Sunday.
Okay.
I woke up and you know the feeling when your leg or whatever, like a limb falls asleep and you just can't move it?
Yeah.
I felt that in my leg. So I don't know what the muscle is called, but the one that controls your foot going up like this.
What, the ankle?
Yeah, like the muscle that controls your foot pointing towards your face.
Okay.
That was like completely dead. And I since I just woke up, I was like, okay, it's just asleep. And then a couple hours go by, and I was like, okay, it's still not moving. And so I go to one of the corpsmen, and he says, okay, just wait. So this is a Sunday, and he says, wait till Tuesday. I don't remember why he said to wait that long, but anyways, I waited. And in the meantime, I was talking to Blevins, which at this point, Blevins has been he's been in H&S for months at this point. Anyways, he was in H&S, but I was talking to him to get his opinion. Like I wasn't trying to go around anyone. But Tuesday comes around, I go into BAS, and it's just corpsmen there. There's no MOs, so they can't write light duty chits or anything.
Yeah.
So I go in there, and the corpsman. So we have a hike the next day. I think it was Wednesday that we had a hike, and they basically said, "Well, I don't know what's wrong, so we're just going to give you an ankle brace," because I kept rolling my ankle because I had no control over that muscle. I could walk. It was just really weird and hard, and I would roll my ankle all the time.
Yeah.
But I definitely couldn't hike with weight because I would roll my ankle for sure. But anyways, so the corpsmen, they give me a ankle brace and say, here you go, just hike on it. And I was like, okay. And then I tell Blevins what they did. I was like, hey, they just gave me an ankle brace. Like, would you have done that? And he's like, hold on. He said, send me a video of you walking. So I sent him a video of me walking, and he sends it to the MO. And
now in that video, were you like, did you purposely like roll your ankle a bunch of times to try to get the point across, or like how was it?
the video,
yeah,
that I sent to Blevins, no, so the way I had to walk, I had to pick up my entire like my thigh basically, and my lower leg below the knee just kind of dangled when I would walk. They call it slap gait, where your foot just kind of slaps the ground like that. Okay. Anyway, so that when Blevins told the MO came in like later that day and wanted to see me, and I finally got put on limb due, and then got told like the next day or the day after or something that I wasn't deploying. And the way I found out I wasn't deploying is because I forget who it was. It was the corpsman. He said, hey, you're not deploying. And then Schroeder called me and said, hey, you're not deploying. And by the way, Gunny just like punched the locker in the office because he was so mad that you're not deploying. Yeah. So that's how mad he was that me, a Lance Corporal that failed advanced school, wasn't going on deployment. That's how mad he was.
Now, to be devil's advocate, now because I heard that was it SAC, I think, because there was someone else, because like you guys at that time were like pretty low on numbers, and then someone else wasn't able to deploy. Was that like after the second, like were you the second person? Like was this just one person on top of the other? Was it like more out of an anger that you specifically weren't going?
It kind of happened. Well, SAC had been dealing with what he had been dealing with. I think it was his knee. He had been dealing with that for years. And then I guess it started getting worse around the same time that my thing happened. But the reason why Gunny got so mad is because I just got married, right? Like 2 weeks before that, okay. I think. So his theory on me, because my injury sounded fake. Like there's no way to prove it unless you do a nerve test, which they did, and they proved it. Anyways, Gunny thought that I was faking because I got married and I wanted to stay back from deployment, which I'd been with my wife. She was my girlfriend on the Mew. So if I wanted to stay back from deployment, I would have done it then too, or at least tried, which I didn't. But anyways, he can think whatever he wants to think. But I don't blame him because that injury sounds super fake. Like I just wake up and my leg doesn't move. But yeah, I mean they proved it through nerve tests and everything. So, but yeah, SAC, his was more progressive. It just kind of happened over time, and then I guess it got worse, or he just started bringing it up too when he realized I wasn't deploying. I don't really know, but staying back from deployment, it's not all that I thought it was going to be. Like it was okay, but it was super boring, like very, very boring.
Was it, were you just like with RBE, like 2 formations a day type boring, or like what was it?
Yeah, so it was pretty much that. And then we didn't really have leave blocks. You just kind of took leave if you wanted to. And I didn't want to because I was barely making 30 days of terminal. So I didn't take leave at all. Okay. And we stayed back and clean like you would think we would do. And then gay stuff just happened all the time. All right. I mean, it was just, I would have rather deployed and gone to another country.
Going back, I would assume, what was this, like almost it had to have been almost a year, maybe like 8 months to ITX. Because ITX is when this famous alien story happens. And when I message people, like to this day, nobody, like, well, not nobody, but there's still like speculation as to like what this quote unquote alien was, if you want to call it that. But
yeah.
So obviously you went to ITX, and so kind of like walk me through like just like the ITX experience and like what you guys were doing, like pretty much like the what would be the word, like the preliminary, like the prelude to the alien story.
Okay, so I can't tell you 81's experience because I got put on camp tax because I failed advanced school, and I didn't find out until I got there that I was going to be on camp tax. I kind of show up and it's dark, it's nighttime, we're all putting our packs down, and then I don't know who it was either Gunny or Master Sergeant, one of the two. They say, hey, Legg, come here. And I hear that I'm on camp tax. And everyone else found out they were on camp tax before we even left, so they left their rifles and NVGs. But I had to bring mine. And I wouldn't have brought my flak and Kevlar either, but I never got told. So I go there and get a surprise, and I'm on camp tax. So I go to the hooch with all the camp tax dudes, and then just kind of leave the platoon behind. So I'm starting to meet new people from across the battalion.
And not to cut you off, like when you're on camp tax, like what overall, like, were you doing like on camp tax?
I worked in the kitchen, like the chow hall or whatever. We just kind of rotated jobs there. I worked the line a little bit, and then I worked in the kitchen. I did different things, and then, you You were on Camp Tax too, right?
I was not. No, was it?
I thought you did the laundry. I guess that wasn't really a Camp Tax, but
No. Yeah.
so Camp Tax took up the entire ITX. So I didn't get to do any range. I didn't get to stay with the platoon. We kind of, I was a little distant from the platoon during that whole time because they did ranges, and I just kind of stayed back. And the only time I really seen them was when they got chow.
Did you get to go to Libo at all, or did you guys even have Libo? I guess when you were out there, or?
No, none at all. At least not Camp Tax. I think 81s maybe the NCOs went to main side. I'm not really sure. I think they did, but no, Camp Tax, we didn't get to really do anything.
Okay. And
we just worked.
So the WTI that we did when we were out there, it was Arizona and then California. Were you guys just in California the whole time?
Yeah, it was Camp Wilson the whole time. I think it was a month, maybe a month and a half. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was there the whole time. I stayed down toward the lower part, below the chow hall, towards, you could see the mountains like right there.
Yeah.
The mountains that are at like the bottom. Yeah, and then we just kind of worked. It was really boring. We worked every day, traded shifts. But it was kind of cool. I got to meet new people across the battalion, made new friends.
How are the people like when you were with the Camp Tac with? Were they all like the weird, quirky type of people that you would think on like a tac was? Or maybe it was kind of like ship tax where it was like a big old, like they had to pull numbers for it, so you were just with like regular people.
Well, yeah, it was mostly pretty normal people, and then it was some dudes that were on ship tax, so they were kind of the outcast of their platoons.
Okay.
But for the most part, most people were cool. I'm still friends with pretty much all of them today, so if that tells you anything.
That does. I think it's a good experience for you.
But some of them were kind of the weirdos and outcasts of their platoons. That's why they were there. But I was owing a debt to Gunny Bowden, so.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said so going into that night, did you actually see, like, the whole camp saw the rounds in the air, right? Assuming it were rounds or if it were aliens, or?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to put up a disclaimer. I have no idea if it were rounds or some alien spaceship or weird experimental military craft. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
I was wondering, like, do you know, or do you think like if it were aliens, or like where did you stand like on that part of the spectrum?
I really don't have an opinion. I've listened to a lot of people and what they thought, but here's the thing. I was going to get into this too. For Camp Tax, I'm a mortarman, so I know about illumination rounds. Yeah. We had artillery guys from the West Coast that were also in Camp Tax, and then we had guys that worked with aircraft from the air wing.
So we had subject matter experts to like analyze this on Camp Tax.
Yeah, so that night when it happened, we were just kind of chilling in the hooches, and we all had like 3 hooches in a row full of Camp Tax guys. Okay. So it was like air wing, artillery, mortarman, pretty much any MOS you can think of was there, or at least any field, I guess. We were all there, and it was nighttime. Most people, well, a couple of people would go outside and talk on the phone or whatever, and most people would just kind of lay down. We had one guy on the phone outside. He comes in and he's like, "Hey guys, come look at this." And we go outside, and it's it's a triangle made up of red lights in the sky. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, okay, those are illumination rounds. But being a mortarman, I know what to look for in illumination rounds. They fall kind of slowly, but fast enough to where you can tell they're falling. Yeah. They leave a smoke trail behind, and you can see that because the illumination rounds illuminate the smoke. Mm-hmm. And this had none of that. And illumination rounds wouldn't be red because red wouldn't really be that effective as an illumination round. but I see no smoke trails. It was staying put in the sky. It wasn't moving at all. And it was just kind of staying there. Now it did move a little bit. The lights kind of shifted.
Mm-hmm. So
What
was your impression going in? Because like I would like, so like you were saying, like you see it happen, you kind of like judge, okay, this more than likely isn't like mortar illumination rounds, but you're seeing it like not move really much. Like when is it kind of crossing your mind like this is not normal, or like I don't know what this is?
Well, so they weren't falling how illumination rounds do, and most people in the infantry or artillery know illumination rounds, so they usually fall and it's really evident that they're falling, but these were just kind of shifting, not really falling down. And that's what made me think like, hey, this is kind of weird. It just kind of stayed in the same formation and didn't move down at all. They may have shifted a little bit, but they didn't move at all. And then the other thing is when they finally disappeared, we looked at pictures and we kind of like changed the brightness on the phone, messed with the brightness and all that, all the little settings, like the visual effects. And if you played with it, you could see like a black mass under. You could see like a black triangle underneath the lights, which really caught my attention and made me think maybe these aren't illumin rounds. And so I'll continue. So we see them. They aren't falling. They might move a little bit, and then they just. What's weird is we hear some type of aircraft. I think it was some type of jet goes over, and then you see illumination rounds, like actual illumination rounds. They appear over top of the triangle. And then shortly after that, like within seconds, the triangle dims out. And then we just all kind of go back in our hooches and play with the photos and upload them or whatever. And you know how long the rows of hooches are in Camp Wilson?
Yeah.
Our row was every single hooch had the entire hooch outside, and we were the first hooch looking downhill. So we were looking downhill at all these hooches, and there were just groups of people outside recording them. And if it was something like illumination rounds, you would think a lot of people in the Marine Corps like that wouldn't be outside recording it, because everyone was recording it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a mixture of MOSs. So if it was something normal, not everyone would be recording it like that.
Now, and maybe I'm jumping forward a little. I won't skip away from this, but like, were there anybody? So you said that you had like, you had artillerymen, you had, you, and I would assume a couple other mortarmen. I would assume there's at least someone there, who's familiar as like an FO maybe. Like, did anybody like give like a good explanation or like a good theory as to like what it would have been that made you think, okay, this is normal, I guess?
So not at that night, not right after that happened. Everyone in my area at least was like, whoa, what was that? That was kind of cool, whatever. But within the next few days, I go back up to the platoon. I don't know. Is it good to name drop one here? It's nothing bad.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So Hyatt was obviously an air winger, and he said he thought it was C-130 illumination rounds.
Okay.
But that still really doesn't explain the no smoke trails and how they didn't fall. Like basic, I guess, physics that illumination rounds obey. I don't know.
Yeah, I see. So let me kind of backtrack a little bit. Maybe you might have explained it, but I just missed it. So were you there like when the rounds like appeared? Like, did you actually watch them like pop off in the sky? If that makes sense.
No, I came late. The guy that was on the phone outside, though, I asked him about that, and he said he didn't see it either. He just kind of turned around and like looked up there, and they were there.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, because like how it is like when illumin rounds, like when we fire illumin rounds, like how they go off, like when you see them, they kind of like I don't want to say gradual, but
yeah,
it's very hard to put in the words. But as mortarmen, they are like, and I was thinking like, is there someone who maybe like saw the rounds like at the camp and then maybe described it?
Not that I know of. I didn't talk to anyone that seen them actually appear, but I know what you mean, because illumination rounds, they appear in reverse of how they disappear. They just kind of go from being dim to being bright. But no, I don't. When they disappeared, they did that. They were bright, and then they just kind of slowly faded away.
Yeah.
But illumination rounds, no matter what type of weapon shoots them, should be on a parachute, and they should behave the same way. So I'm not really buying the C-130 illumination rounds. And I even looked up C-130 illumination rounds, and they don't look like that. They're still orangish yellow, like artillery and mortars. That disappears. We go back inside, and then we hear, this may be unrelated, but I hear helicopters flying all over Camp Wilson, which I think wasn't very typical, especially that late at night. They were just kind of going around in circles, which didn't seem typical unless I just haven't been paying attention.
Now, to play like I don't want to keep using the phrase devil's advocate, but you said since like if it's possible that this were like illumination rounds and that this was some sort of like obviously some type of like exercise like involving the air wing, would it make sense that there were some type of like helicopters doing something like in tangent with that?
Yeah, that would make sense to me too. I would say I'm a devil's advocate too. Like, I've thought about all these things. I'm not convinced in any way on either side, but
yeah.
So I still have no idea. I just know it's caught a lot of people's attention. But that night I posted it on Facebook. I went to the Warriors Club and got Wi-Fi. Posted it on Facebook, and it was like maybe 2 pictures and a video, maybe. And I said, I posted the one where you can see the black mass underneath the triangle.
Yeah.
That was one of the pictures. So I think that's what got a lot of people's attention. So I post that. I go to sleep. I wake up, check my phone, and this guy, I'm not going to name drop him because he's kind of a big deal. He messages me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I seen your post. I'd like to call you if that's okay." And I was like, "Who is this guy? Like, I don't know who he is." I click on his Facebook profile and I click his links, and they're all verified. Like, his Instagram's verified. He has a documentary on Netflix, and his Facebook is covered in like articles about UFOs, especially from military personnel.
And for the audience, to add to Legg's seriousness, this guy's worked with a man named Bob Lazar. So if you guys want to look up who Bob Lazar is, it's like this is like an actual famous person that Danny's talking about.
Yeah. So this guy that reached out to me, he did a documentary on Netflix about Bob Lazar. He actually did it with him, not really about him. He interviewed him and everything.
Okay.
But Bob Lazar, if the audience doesn't know, is pretty much the whistleblower on Area 51. He's the one that made Area 51 famous. Anyway, so what makes this weirder is that I'm not into this stuff. My dad is, which is funny, but I'm not into like UFOs and all that, or Bigfoot, the cryptid, whatever. I'm not into that. I just kind of fell into this because I uploaded pictures on Facebook. Anyways, I'll continue with where I left off. So the guy messaged me on Facebook, wants to talk to me. I look at what he's uploaded and what he's done. It's all verified, and I'm just kind of mind blown, I guess. And I texted him on Facebook. He says, "What's your number?" I gave it to him. He texts me, and he says, "I'd like to call you tomorrow." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." I call him, and I looked up videos before just to verify, the voice and everything. And it's actually him on the phone. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I didn't know who this guy was, but he was on Joe Rogan's podcast with Bob Lazar. And then I seen his Netflix documentary when I looked up his name. So this guy's legit, and he's super into UFOs. And I feel bad because I think they're Illum rounds, or I at least am not sure that they're not Illum rounds.
Yeah, what did you tell him when he's like, dude, like you totally saw aliens or something like that? Did you like? I don't want to like keep, don't take it the wrong way, but did you like remain humble about it? Like, yeah, like I don't think like this is what you're looking for. Or did you like totally play along with it because now you're gonna get like your 15 minutes of fame?
No, so I actually, even to this day, well, he hasn't texted me in a couple weeks, but even recently, I've been telling him like, hey, I'm still a little iffy about it. I'm not sure. Like I don't know. But this guy, when he called me, he said that he has friends in the area that are top military officials, according to him, around California, because he's based out of California.
Okay.
He says he knows people around that area, around 29 Palms, and he would talk to them. And then months later, we go back to Camp Lejeune. He says that he's spoken to a couple people from that area and like in the military or whatever it was. And he said they all don't know what it is. But even after he said that, I still told him like, hey, there's still a possibility that they are loom rounds. Like, you know, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate with him.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of texts from him, and he's trying to put out a show now on Netflix or whichever station will give him a home. And he wants me to go on there and interview. So I guess when that time comes, he'll put me on there and then I can show everyone.
Now, one thing I've kind of noticed with it too is like, it's, if I have it right, it sounds like he's very, very convinced that like this is something. Well, yeah, he seems pretty confident that this is definitely like something extraterrestrial, maybe like not something of the world.
At least something abnormal that's not that the average person can't explain.
And so, to your experience, like out of all the people that you've heard, so like Hyatt said that he thinks it was C-130 rounds. A couple of people may have like offered, but like, has anybody that you've heard, whether they're right or wrong, if they like confidently like said or like they claim to be like for sure this is some type of a loom round or this is some type of whatever ammunition? Is like there's anyone not just made like a regular claim, but like they're for certain?
Oh, no, just Hyatt. Hyatt sounded really confident, but like I said, I Googled images of C-130 aluminum rounds and even just aircraft aluminum rounds in general. And I didn't see any that were red or made like a triangle like that, or even with a black mass. Now, the thing is, the black mass underneath is what really steers me away from aluminum rounds, and the fact that it stood still. I didn't mention this, but it stood still for probably 5 minutes, like a solid 5 minutes.
Yeah, we both probably should have mentioned it because I remember when I was posting it all around on the meme page, like that was what everyone was telling me. Like you were saying, it was just stagnant, but it was there for, and like to the average person or civilian listening, like aluminum rounds don't stay in the air that long. At least none that I know of, or none that we've worked with for certain.
Now, I'm gonna play devil's advocate with myself. So red lights aren't as bright as orange or white or whatever, the typical lights. That could explain why there was no smoke, because if you've ever seen normal illumination rounds, they have a smoke trail. That could explain why there was no smoke above it, but
okay,
I don't know. It still doesn't make sense that they stood in the sky in the same place for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't know if anyone's really, and I don't know maybe if Hyatt like said something about that, but like I mean I don't know of anybody that's offered an explanation or like any reason why that may have been a thing.
This was so long ago I can't really remember, but I think Hyatt didn't really have a confident explanation of that. It was just kind of like, yeah, they do that, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this guy, the famous guy, he sends me updates still. So this was when was ITX? Like over a year ago?
It was around April and May of last year. Or yeah, it was April and May because I drove out there to see you guys like mid-May, right when y'all left.
He still sends me updates. Like I don't text him first, which is funny because you think I would, but he texts me out of the blue all the time. Like, hey, if I'm getting on your nerves, you can just say stop. Like he'll send me updates on UFOs that he releases. and then he'll tell me updates on his show and everything. Like, hey, I'm just looking for a home for my show. It was Netflix, but after he said Netflix, he said, I'm looking for a home. So I'm thinking Netflix maybe shot it down. But he does have a documentary on Netflix right now. But if I do go on that show, I'll definitely let you know. And then since it'll be public anyways, I'll just maybe if you want to do a part 2.
Oh, hell yeah. That'd be amazing.
But I don't know if he wants to like fly me out or just kind of do a video call. I don't know. I don't really know what kind of show it's going to be exactly. Like how it'll be set up.
That would be cool if he flew you out there and you actually get to go back to like you get to go back to Camp Wilson. You actually get to relive the experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So what's weird? I don't know how that reminded me of that, but he had me send a picture with a compass, like screenshot my compass facing the direction that I seen it in. And then send a picture of it in the daylight. I don't know what he did with that, but so I guess he talked to a lot of military officials from what I understand. And then he told me if it got, verified through the Pentagon, because this guy has released a lot of things to the Pentagon, and then the Pentagon will release it to the public. So do you remember the video of the Navy guy through night vision? He saw, I think it was a Navy pilot. He saw like a triangle in the sky through his night vision, and you can see it clearly.
Was this the one where it went from like, I think like sea level to like 60,000 feet in like under like a second or something like that? It was some crazy story.
Yeah. Well, he's actually released 2 or 3 of Navy pilots, but there was one with a triangle. He sent me that one and said this is similar to what you're dealing with, but he does a lot of military leaks, I guess, and then he'll send that to the Pentagon. The Pentagon confirms them. So he told me if the Pentagon confirmed mine, that I may have to go in front of. It's a 3-letter agency. I don't remember what it's called. CID, is that correct? Does that sound familiar?
CID, maybe. I'm not. I gotta be honest. I don't think I've heard of them.
Well, it's some type of defense intelligence committee or something.
Wait, so like you would have to speak in front of like congressmen and like senators and shit?
Something like that. Some type of 3-letter agency. Bro, if it got confirmed through the Pentagon.
Do you own any good suits?
No, I guess I'll have to break out my dress blues and hope they fit. Hope I didn't gain too much weight.
Well, at least your hair's in regs for it. That's for sure.
Yeah. More than it was when I was in.
So, what was I going to say about the aliens thing? Okay, so like you mentioned that like I'm like the black mass that's like sitting underneath the lights, or like that's basically I would assume like the weight of what's like making this kind of like an aliens thing. That and the fact that it's been up in the air for 5 minutes, like. How quick, like, and I can imagine like there's obviously jokes of people like running around like the hooches after it's gone, like, oh, it was aliens. And some people that were filming it were saying like, oh, it's Russia, or, we got a UFO out here. But like how quick of it, like, was that like an alien, or like how quick did that settle in, or like how immediate was the whole aliens theory when you guys were at Camp Wilson?
As it was in the sky, we were I don't know if Charn sent you the videos that I sent him, but you can hear it in the background. Everyone's already screaming aliens as soon as it's in the sky.
I can hear Alex Jones in the background already.
You and Alex Jones.
In the distant star system here.
I don't know.
So,
I kind of hope it was aliens and it can get confirmed. That'd be pretty cool.
Now, so we've kind of talked about like why, or like how it could have been like an Illume round, or like what would have made it some type of like military equipment at all. But so like what kind of runs through your mind, or like what makes you think, okay, this would make sense why it's an alien or something like that? Like what makes you kind of like what arguments or like part of your brain makes you think of the other side?
Okay, yeah. So like I said, I'm not really for either side of it. I mean, it would be cool in theory if it were aliens, but So the things to me that make it more on the alien side, or at least abnormal side, is, of course, it stayed in the air for a good 5 minutes or so. And then the illumination rounds that went on top of it, they were a different color. They were the normal color. They were orangish, white, or whatever, like a fire color.
Yeah.
They went over top of it, and then the red lights disappeared after 5 minutes. So they were in the sky for 5 minutes, and then suddenly, right after these illumination rounds go over top of it, it disappears. Like, it doesn't want to be seen.
Okay.
Which makes sense to me. And then later figuring out that there's a black triangle under it after playing with the picture effects and everything. That's definitely a big one. And then the helicopters, which I could be wrong, but I think that was abnormal too, having the birds in the air that late at night. I don't think there ever were. I mean, it's the military. We do night operations all the time, but I don't think they're.
It's because, like, even when we do ranges, it's still very uncommon because usually most ranges go cold at night.
Yeah, and you would think, so when we would do like SEADs or whatever, air would be on station with us, not after us, because no illumination rounds or anything fell after air got into the sky. So it was like those red lights, illumination rounds, and then air was on station for like an hour or so with nothing else was going on. So I don't know why air would be on station if it were part of the exercise after everything's already said and done. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Now, so presumably if these helicopters go into the air, assuming that maybe there's like some type of UFO or something, a UFO, an unidentified flying object that shouldn't be there, like, wouldn't there at least be some word spread around the camp that, like, there's something around this camp that, like, shouldn't be? Like, does that make sense? Like, some type of threat that, like, the camp needs to know about, or like, were there? And I don't know if that word would ever reach to you, but I could imagine, like, if there's like these helicopter pilots that are getting word, hey, like, we need to figure out what the hell this is over the sky. Like, I would think they would talk about that, or they would mention it, like, and that word would get around. Did you ever hear anything about that?
No, I don't think there was like anything announced or passed down or anything. What's funny is the guy that, I don't even know what to call him without using his name, the Netflix guy.
Yeah.
He asked me if there were pilots on the base, and I said yeah, and he told me to go ask one of them. But I just never seen any around after that, which I wish I could have asked them, but I didn't see any around after that. But if anyone would know, it would definitely be them.
Yeah.
I wish I could have asked, but no, I don't think there could have been a message going around. Either I didn't hear it because I was camp tax, or no one heard it at our level because it would have just been pilots, maybe.
I guess it would kind of make sense being like a military or like a desert, but like, if it, suppose that it were aliens, let's just assume we know, like, why would the aliens come to like that specific camp of all places, or at least like near that area? Like, does that ever run through your mind?
If aliens would come to any base, I would think it would be for intelligence, or, like I said, I'm not really super into aliens, so I don't really know what the theories are, but my theory would be just intelligence, like any other country would be watching us do exercises and train and everything. I think it would be along the lines of that, just intelligence, really.
Okay. But it's like, even then though, it's like all places, like, because I've heard decent theories about, like, because California's been a decent site, like those Navy pilots, or that Navy pilot that you mentioned, like, that was in California, and they mentioned because it's like at the sea, so if an alien would go to the sea, then because there's no land and there's not really a good place to see it. But like, if they go on the coast of California, it's like the perfect spot of like sea, and then there's like military bases near there. But like, you guys are in the middle of the desert. You're not even anywhere near the coast or anything. I mean, I don't know what's exactly near Camp Wilson, other than, it's still like a base attachment to 29 Palms, I think. Like, I don't know what would be like the tactical gain behind a UFO scouting y'all out.
Well, I've actually heard there's a theory that aliens live in the ocean, like they're based out of the ocean.
Okay.
Now, as far as why would they want to go inland and see what we're doing there, I think it's just intelligence to see like what we're up to. I mean, it is kind of close to the coast. Like, I mean, it's not as close as Camp Lejeune or a base like that, but I think either way, they would want intelligence on what type of equipment we have, how we train. I don't know. I guess just curiosity out of them. I don't know. Surprisingly, I haven't really looked into aliens and stuff. So,
Which kind of surprises me because you've had a very quick ascension to fame because of this.
yeah.
It sounds to me like you're just trying to like not get tied down into this at all.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't want to let it consume my life. It's funny though because like I said before, my dad's super into this stuff, and he knows the Netflix guy. He knows who he is, and he's watched his stuff before. And I texted him. I said, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And he said, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. He said, "Why?" And I was like, "Because he called me the other day." And he said, "No way, get me in on that call," and stuff like that. Because my dad's super into the like Bigfoot and aliens and stuff like that. But I just kind of fell into it, and I really don't even really care about it that much. Like it's cool, but I don't know. I just think it's funny that he cares about it a lot, and I just kind of fell into it.
I see a lot of situations like this. This is probably like not a lot of people just find stuff like it's not very common to just find your calling like the day you're born. Like I think this is a godsend blessing for you, Legg, that you're on this earth to find out like, more about the extraterrestrial beings, like why we're here. You might not like it, but I think this is your calling in life.
Yeah, maybe I'll lead the fight into when the aliens attack. I'll lead the fight. You ever watch Falling Skies?
I have not. No.
Well, it's about an alien attack. It's a series. It's on HBO Max right now. It's a series about an alien attack. It's actually pretty good. It's kind of like The Walking Dead, but not as well made. But yeah, I could see myself being that. Maybe that is my calling.
See, now you can already see yourself, and this is perfect timing too, because you said the Netflix guy has a target on his back, so odds are it's probably some government agency that's gonna say that he commits suicide like in about 6 months from now. And Alex Jones is getting sued. Alex Jones is getting sued out the rear end right now, so he's not going to be able to lead the fight pretty soon. Like, this is your calling, Danny.
Maybe it's my time to step up.
Maybe it was the aliens that figured out how to because they like your injury. You said like it totally seems like it would be a fake injury. Well, it would make perfect sense why the aliens would probe your ankle to make sure that you can't walk.
Maybe they abducted me one night and I just didn't know.
Maybe they abducted you at Camp Wilson, but they erased your memory or something like that. That's why you don't have an interest in this.
They could have, yeah. Anything's possible.
You know what's funny, but it's very coincidental. There's a helicopter like roaming around my house right now.
Yeah, they hear us. They're looking for you.
They're really trying to shoot us down. And I'm in Arizona of all places, which is not too far from Camp Wilson. So it's probably the aliens looking after me too.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I was scared to fly back.
How come?
Because I posted it on Facebook and everyone was telling me like, take that down. And I was like, why? And then, they were just telling me people get killed because of stuff like that. You know too much.
Know too much. I mean, well, either they're confirming the alien conspiracy because the aliens are going to kill people, or like, I don't see how you're going to get people killed posting a in-depth picture of aluminum rounds.
Yeah, it was aluminum rounds, government, if you're listening. It's weird stuff. I don't know. I just feel like, to me, if it were aluminum rounds, everyone would have brushed it off as aluminum rounds. Yeah. With the type of crowd that's seen it, Artie, Morterman, Air Wingers, all of us would have brushed it off. I don't
But
know.
the
It was
fact
just
that
the
it's still not,
behavior. What was that?
I was gonna say, but the fact that it's still like up in the air even after a year and some of you guys getting out, like it's, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. That's what's got me kind of in the middle still. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. The Netflix guy he really thinks it was something that can't be explained.
Hmm.
That's why
Do
he's
you,
still in contact with me.
now, before we kind of wrap it up, do you think we'll ever find out what that being or what that round, whatever that was? Do you think we'll ever find out?
I think the only way to find out is if that story blows up, if he tries to make it a story, or if it goes on Netflix. If that blows up and gets investigated, that's the only way. Because he said he's spoken to people around the area that were higher ups in the military, and they said they didn't know what it was. So,
All right.
if that were true, then that kind of says a lot to me. But I don't know. Officially, I don't know if we'll ever know.
Okay. I'm gonna lead this into two parts before we kind of dip off. So I guess I don't know how much this has like affected your thinking, but like, what's just your general view on like aliens, just as a normal person? Do you think they're real? Do you think it's a whole hoax? Do you think, okay, maybe they could be real, but it's like not worth your while to look into? Like, what's your just like what's the Danny Legg gist of what aliens are? How real they are?
Well, I think it's fun to think about. I'm not sure if there's I think there's something else out there. I don't think we're alone in the universe. If you've ever seen videos on how big the universe is, we're definitely not alone. And life, I know there's life out there besides us. Um, Life could mean fish or dogs. Maybe there's a planet of dogs running around, I'm sure there's life out
Something.
there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know how intelligent. I don't know if they're intelligent enough to build the pyramids, as the theory says, or if they're intelligent enough to collect information on our military without us knowing. I don't know. I know there's something out there. I just don't know how advanced they are.
That's a very, I would say that's actually a very common view. It's a pretty safe assumption to assume based on the size of the universe, like you said, but like pinpointing it on the head, I have to agree with you. That's a pretty hard thing to say.
Now, there is one thing my dad, as a Christian, told me about aliens.
Okay.
So I don't quote me on the Bible verse because I don't want to be wrong on it, but there's a Bible verse according to him that in the end, after everything's said and done, there's going to be an unnumbered amount of beings in heaven. And the way my dad put it is, you can roughly estimate how many people have ever existed on Earth.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe that's saying there's other beings on other planets that God is in touch with that we just aren't in touch with. I don't know. I
That's
know
a
there's
deep.
something out there. There's got to be.
I really wish I could remember that second part of the question that I was going to ask, but this was very in depth. That little part we just touched on, but so before we wrap up, we've been doing this every episode, but for the guys that are still in, you have a little word, you have a little message to send to them, little tidbit of advice, words of wisdom from Danny Legg himself.
Oh man, I would say this is just me personally. I wish I would have saved more money.
Okay.
And I wish I would have planned ahead a lot more and, like actually known what I was going to do when I got out versus just saying, hey, I want to get out. So just have a plan, save money, but also have fun and go out with the boys more. That's all I got to say.
That's very well put. I would testify to that as well. That's very good. It's very good, very wise piece of advice to give. Well, so Legg or Danny, I don't know how you wish to be called now that you're a free man, but if people want to get to know more about you or follow you on social media, do you have any? Like, where can people follow you?
So my social media, I would say, I'll just shout out my Instagram. It's Danny Legg, LANNYDEGG. It's Danny Legg, but switch the D and L. and my DMs are open.
I'll shoot you up on those DMs too when we get out of here. I'll slide right in. All right. So,
all right,
ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I did. It's fun to talk to and listen to the wise words of Danny Legg himself. And I hope you all take care. Semper Fi, and we're out of here. CSMO.